Hello there and welcome to Miss Evil Knits, my podcast about knitting. Special welcome to all of you that are returning viewers who have been watching my Swedish podcast during the last year. I'm so happy that you want to join in on this journey again, and I wish all of you that are new on this podcast, that maybe don't understand Swedish, that has seen that I have a podcast and wanting to have it in English. Now, this is for you, as you're here. This podcast will be in English, and I hope that you will join the journey, and in that case, you are warm welcome to do so. So, yeah, I'm back, and I announced on New Year's Eve last year that I would take a break from the podcast I had. I will talk a little bit about that later, and said that I will think about if I will come back, and if I come back, in what concept that will be like. And now I have been thinking, and now I have come up with the new concept that I will present later. So this episode will be mostly about presentation. I will present myself in general and as a knitter. I will present the podcast, both how it all started, why I decided to take a break, and also the concept of the new podcast. And I will also present my request for you, for this podcast to actually be able to continue. And it has nothing to do with money, but we will come back to that. Before I continue with all these presentations, I will just let you know that the new concept will not be anything like a knitting diary that the concept for most knitting podcasts are. I will not show you finished objects, work in progress, what I'm planning on knitting, what I bought, and those kind of things. That will not be the concept. So if you are after a podcast that shows those things, then you should not follow this podcast. If you want to have a podcast that you can watch a little bit on and off and just have in the background, and look here and there and just see someone who is knitting, then it's not a podcast for you either, because I want you to be focused and actually follow this podcast actively, to be able to actually, to be able to use what I am actually planning on providing in this podcast. And if you want a podcast where someone is name dropping a lot of designers, designs, yarn producers, and so on, this is not the podcast for you either. If you want a podcast when someone is telling you exactly how to do things, what to do, and so on, this is not the podcast for you either. So here you can decide if you want to continue watching or not. But if you think that, okay, I am really curious about what she's actually going to show, then I ask you to watch this episode all the way to the end, because in this episode there will be a lot of information that is crucial for you to actually be able to understand the concept and the upcoming episodes. So this is kind of a key episode for the rest of the episodes. I hope that you are really curious now. So I think that we can start with the first part of the presentation, and that is, who am I in general? Well, my name is Anneli. I've just turned 50 and I live in Sweden. I'm born and raised in Sweden. I've lived most of my life here. I have worked abroad in some periods, but right now I live here in Sweden, in this environment. I have a full-time job, most of the time more than full-time job. When I have spare time or free time, my interest then, except from knitting, is mostly connected to outdoor activities. I usually spend some weeks every summer hiking, either in the Swedish or Norwegian mountains or in the more southern part of Sweden. And I really like doing that. It gives it's a freedom for me. I also have a kayak on the Swedish west coast that I also try to take a week or two every year, go kayaking. I only made a few days kayaking last year, but some years I have been doing a lot of weeks, more or less the whole summer. So it a little bit depends on the weather and other circumstances. I'm also into running, biking, open water swimming, even if I haven't been doing that as much as I would want to have or should have. I'm also a little bit into being lazy. But I have the knowledge and the equipment to do all these things. And what is common with these interests is that I'm self-taught within it. So it's nothing that someone has taught me or I've taken a course or something. Since I've been doing these things for more or less all my life, I have learned the hard way to do this. And I think that is a part of my personality, that actually being curious and wanting to learn new things, and wanting to learn it by myself, by trying out, analyzing it, watching others, and trying to figure it out, reading up on things, and learning. Because I think that learning is a process within me, where I actually take all available information and process it. For me, learning is not that someone else tells me just exactly how to do it, because it's repeating. It's not learning. Learning is deeper than just doing what someone is telling you to do. And this about learning new things, it's those kind of challenges I like. That learning new things, learning to do things in another way. So developing myself, that's challenges that I like. I'm also quite structured and analytical. So I want to understand why things are in different ways. I just don't take I just don't accept like, okay, that's just the way things are. I want to understand why. and then like analyze and reflect on things, and why is it like this, and could it be in another way, can you look at it in different perspectives. So yeah, those things I like to do, and I often do that when I'm doing my other interests, like if I'm out walking. I often think about different things. Yeah, reflecting on life in general. I also often get the feedback that I am, this is a difficult word, it is pedagogic, yeah, you know, I like to teach other, and I think that I have a way of doing that, to making other people actually understand, without telling people exactly how to do it, because then I don't think that you learn anything. So that is basically what I will tell you about me in general. Because we will not, in the podcast, we will not talk about me in general. We will talk about me as a knitter. But I think it's good that you know a little bit about interests I have, because that will affect my way of designing and thinking about material, and think about the knitwear, or what kind of knitwear I choose to make, and so on. And many of you have either asked or probably been thinking about the name Miss Evil, and where does that come from? And it was actually a nickname I got from colleagues at work, and it was many years ago. And it's not that they started calling me that to be mean to me. It's more from love. And it's not that I am mean or trying to hurt people or something. It's more that I can be very clear, and I don't let anyone step on me. Maybe that people think that I have an evil eye. So I guess that is where this nickname comes from. And well, it has served me well, and I'm going to keep it. Who am I as a knitter? Well, when many talk about how they started knitting, they probably almost always have some kind of childhood memory where they learn from their mothers or grandmothers. I don't have any of those memories. I don't really know how I learned to knit. Probably at school, or maybe from my mother or somewhere. I only have the feeling that I have always known how to knit in different ways. So I probably knitted something, some sweater or something in some acrylic yarn. I don't know. I have nothing left from that time when I was young. So when I started knitting more seriously, I think the first was in maybe 20 years ago or something, when I started knitting from the book Fisherman's Sweaters by Alice Starmore. And I knitted a couple of those designs in there. And when I look at them now, I like, oh wow, could I knit that? Because it's quite advanced designs in that book. So, but after that, I didn't really knit that much. Maybe a pair of socks, maybe, until spring 2018. So I would say that 2018, even if I knitted things before that, that was the start for when I actually become a knitter, and that was aware about what I was actually doing. So that was the restart of my knitting career. And I think that after that it hasn't gone a day without me knitting. I think so. And the reason why I started knitting there again, it was that I was writing my master essay, or what do you call it? But at least for 10 weeks I had just been writing academical text and all these things. And I felt like I really, really, really need to do something that doesn't have to do with these kind of more structured academical texts. I need to do something that's creative, artistic. So then I found, probably on Facebook, something that they were knitting Icelandic sweater together. What I know about this knit-along concept. Because before I found that, I had no idea that the online knitting community was so big. I had never heard about Ravelry. That was something I learned about in this spring-summer 3 years ago. I have never heard about knit-alongs. I found out that there were a lot of different knitting groups on Facebook. I saw that, wow, there's a lot of things happening on Instagram. So I had no idea about what was online connected to knitting. So that was a whole new world that revealed in front of me. So I bought yarn, Lättloppig yarn, and joined this knit-along with this Icelandic sweater. I think it was Aftur. And then I also, parallel to that, knitted the sweater called Riddari. And I guess that I have been knitting stranded knitting before, but I didn't really have any technique for it, but I learned on the way. And since that day, I guess I have been knitting more or less every day, and I have constantly been developing in my skills, in my choices of construction, choices of yarn, and so on. So it has been a really interesting development journey for me to actually go from there, when I was okay, I could do the technique knitting, but I wasn't really aware of what I was doing, to come to where I am now, where at least I find myself much more aware of these things. And then I see, okay, if I can go that far in 3 years, how can I go, or where can I be in another 3 years? I know that the development curve is probably not going to be that steep, but I see that there's still so much to learn. So where am I now? And I'm telling you that just for you to understand where I am in my knitting life, because that will show and impact in what I am actually showing and talking about in this podcast. And I'm searching for clever constructions. That's very central in my knitting life. I love these clever constructions. I'm searching them both by buying patterns from designers that are actually very good at construction, but I'm also finding them out myself. I can take a walk and think about different constructions, and how I can, like, if I want to have this kind of hood, how should I create it and how should I construct it to give it that shape and properties that I want it to have. So yeah, that's what I do when I'm out walking. So construction is very central in my knitting life right now. It's also this awareness about the wool, where it comes from, the different properties of different wool fibers. A sheep is not just a sheep. There are so many different breeds, and the fibers have so many different properties. I'm trying to use mainly Swedish wool or Nordic wool that has a traceability in how it's produced, that is fair made wool that is as untreated as possible, because I think that I want it to be as pure as possible, as just to understand the wool, because yarn is not just yarn, and I also want that I have as little impact on the environment as possible, and also be able to access the fantastic properties that the pure wool have. So awareness about the wool and the fiber is very central also. And about a year ago I discovered the Nutiden yarn, and Nutiden is unspun yarn that is produced by a small family business, Swedish family business. They're called Hönor och Ejer. And the first time I stumbled upon it or bought it, my first plate, it wasn't a really love at first sight. I have tried unspun yarn before from Plötulopi, and because I wanted to develop and see how that I could use that kind of yarn. But now when I have been working with Nutiden for a year, I feel like I more often choose the unspun yarn because I find it so much more versatile, and the properties of it is, it's so much, it fits me so much better in what I want to create. So I'm not sponsored by anyone, but I really love this Nutiden yarn, and also because it's the different blends have different properties. You can use it for different things, and I really love it. I'm also doing some own designs. I have been doing these Evil Stripes socks. I have the Vila Mitten, and I also have the Kura sock. Some of it has been published for everyone, and some have only been so far only been published for the patrons of Hönor och Ejer. But I will come back to those and during this podcast as well. But I'm designing for my own sake. I'm designing because it's a part of my creative process, that what I find what do I find? But what gives me lust and inspiration in the knitting process, that's why I like designing, because what it gives back to me. I don't design for you. So things that I design will not become patterns or recipes. So you don't have to ask for that. If it will become a pattern or recipe, you will know it. But mainly there will not be. It's only for me and my creativity. I'm not either a social knitter. I have been taking part in knit-alongs, but it hasn't really been any... I don't find inspiration in it. So I'm not really social knitting. I have been on some kind of knit cafes, knitting together with others, but I prefer knitting in my own company and doing it for me, because knitting is, yeah, it's not a way to have a social life for me. It's more a way of actually developing myself, my skills, my creativity, and so on. And it's also a way to de-stress. How more to tell you about me as a knitter. I have no dream at all about becoming a knitwear designer, to work with yarn, to have my own yarn shop or something. That is not a dream I have. So I am totally happy with being just being a knitter, not a producer in any way. I only do this for myself because I feel good about it. It's de-stressing and it's the creativity. So to summarize me as a knitter is that I am aware. I like it simple when it comes to constructions and designs and things. I'm curious. I want to learn more. I want to develop constantly. And that I do this for myself. I am the central part in the knitting, my knitting. So maybe a little bit confusing, but that's me as a knitter. Okay, then we have come to the presentation of the Miss Evil Knits old podcast. And why did I start it, and why did I decide to take a break? I have been watching quite a lot of different podcasts, mostly Swedish, but also some international, like American, British, German podcasts before. And that was during this period where I was starting or restarted knitting, and I was in this kind of quite steep development curve. So I was trying like a sponge, like just trying to absorb all information and knowledge that I could find. And then in early spring last year, 2020, there are some flies and mosquitoes here. That's why I trying to see if they can go away. So early spring last year, 2020, I just suddenly, one day, it was like a Saturday or a Sunday, I was waiting for the cross-country ski competition on television. I was waiting for that one to start, and I just got this idea. I would try to record a podcast. So I just collected a lot of different knitted garments. I tried to find a spot where I could sit. I didn't have any tripod, so I more or less with tape just attached my telephone to a chair, so it was, I could film myself, and then I recorded for about an hour. I didn't have any manuscript or any notes. I was just talking. And it was kind of a weird sensation, sitting talking into a camera all by yourself. And then I showed the result to some friends, and then I decided that, okay, I tried to publish it and see the reaction. And the result was 30 episodes. These were in Swedish. I only recorded in Swedish. So 30 episodes, and some special episodes. And I also made, I think it was 6 different technique videos, like this, going into different techniques like increasing, decreasing, pearl knits, different cables, different bubbles, different textures, and so on. And not only just showing them, but also talking about the pros and cons connected to these different. And I also made a sock pattern, or a sock recipe, the Evil Stripes sock. That was actually another technique or tutorial video with different techniques, like to do a toe-up sock, to do stranded knitting, to do a short row heel, to do a Latvian braid, and so on. So I just merged all these different techniques into, was it 4 different videos, 3 or 4 different videos to make this sock recipe. And all this is still on my YouTube channel. It's in Swedish, but when it comes to these technique videos, I think that you will get most of it just by looking at it. So I made that. In all these ordinary episodes, I had every time, or for every episode, I have a theme that could be about different garments, like mittens and socks and hats and scarves and shawls, and it was also about different yarn types and fibers. I was also presenting different wool fibers from different breeds, and so on. So different themes. And I actually felt like those themes was the things in the podcasting that actually gave me the most, where I learned a lot about, because I didn't know these things before. I was searching the internet and trying to figure out things, and just searching for information and processing the information. So that meant that the journey for me to becoming more aware of my knitting and the material I'm choosing for my knitting, it started there. So that was, for me, the good part with the podcasting. I learned a lot of things. But I choose, and I actually decided already in the early autumn, that I will take a break. I will produce 30 episodes before New Year's Eve, or the 30th episode was actually recorded and published on New Year's Eve. And then I will take a break. So that was planned. I didn't announce it until like the episode 30, the last couple of minutes there, but I had already decided. And that was because I felt, if you can imagine a bucket of water, and you have this bucket filled with water, and you give people water to drink or to do whatever they want with it. But if you don't get help with filling up the bucket again, eventually it will be empty. It will just dry out, and then you cannot give anything more. And I felt that was happened. My bucket of inspiration, it just dried out. I felt that I gave a lot, but I didn't really find a way where I got inspiration back. And many of my faithful viewers of the podcast, you were lovely. Without you, it would probably not have become 30 episodes that were encouraging me and showing your appreciation. But it was a period there, and I'm still feeling this, is that I didn't really get the inspiration by browsing through Ravelry or Instagram, watching other podcasts, because I felt, and I still feel, that they are pretty much all the same. I see the same garment, I see the same yarn, I see the same brands, and they talk about the same thing, and it's very basic. And I don't mean that other podcasts are poor or bad or poorly made or uninteresting. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I have reached a point where I need to take the next step to find this inspiration, to find the water to fill me up. I'm getting a little bit fed up with the things I see. I don't find joy in it. What I find joy in is sitting more or less by myself, or walking through in this kind of forest and searching for inspiration, and trying to figure out a way to design things that suits my needs. That's where I find my inspiration. So the reason why I took this break, it was because I needed to fuel up again and find this kind of this ways to fuel up and not go empty. There's a sustainable way of actually interacting with others. And doing podcasts, it takes so much time, and I want to do things that I feel proud of. And many times recording an episode that maybe is about 1 hour, that usually took the whole weekend, because you have to prepare. I would usually write down the notes. If I have a theme, I need to do the research, and then record, and then edit, and then try to upload it, and then it will always be some problems with a video not wanting to upload, or memory issues, and so on. So it was a whole weekend, and it's not sustainable in the long run, because it only causes frustration when you feel that. When you feel more frustration than you feel like joy and motivation, then it's time to take a break. So yeah, that was the purpose, and I wanted to not podcast for a while, and also to think about if I want to podcast again, and if I want to podcast, how would that look like? What kind of concept do I want in my future podcasting? And I have come up with a concept, and I am planning for it, but I cannot guarantee that I will fulfill that ambition, because it has to do with I'm actually managing to keep my bucket of inspiration full, or at least not drying out, and finding a way to do this podcasting in a sustainable way, so I can engage in what I want to do with my free time. I have a lot of my job is right now very stressful, and it's too much to do, and it will not get less. And that I I can maintain my creativity also in the knitting, and that the knitting still is a joy for me and not something that I feel that I have to do. So yeah, that was all the presentation I am planning on giving on who I am in general and as a knitter, and the past of the podcasting. I have probably forgotten some things. I may have to add it in the end of this episode or in the later episodes. But now I will present the upcoming concept of the new Miss Evil Knits. Okay, now we are here for the thing that you've all been waiting for me to present the new concept of Miss Evil Knits. And it will be all about creativity. So the title of this podcast, of these episodes for this year, will be Miss Evil Knits on creativity. But before I start presenting it more, I will just explain what I mean is what the creativity is all about. Because if you look through the definition of creativity, then you can see that creativity is a way of solving problems. There's a method to solve problems. And the creativity consists of 3 different elements that needs to be working together. And the first element is skills and knowledge about the topic where you want to be creative within. So skills. The second topic or element is inspiration. And you need that to be able to think in new and different ways. And the inspiration is stimuli for your brain, for your thinking. So it's easy to use the word creativity and inspiration in the same way. What? An explosion. And inspiration and creativity. But inspiration is the mental part, the stimuli of the brain that actually help you to think in different ways. So it's a part of the creativity or the creative process. So skills and inspiration. And the third element is courage. And inner motivation, the wanting to do these things, wanting and daring, have the courage to do these things that may put you into areas or situations where you haven't been before. But to be able to reach your goal, you need to have this courage. So skills, inspiration and courage. That is the 3 elements that builds up the creativity. So you can say that creativity is a process that is both within you, in your brain, the thinking, and also the doing. So thinking and doing together, that creates this creativity. And it is among these 3 elements, and like the creativity as an overarching umbrella, that the coming 10 episodes will be all about. See if there's someone coming. I don't know what that explosion was. I don't think it was anything dangerous. That was a bike coming. So, my plan is to have 10 episodes. So another 10 episodes where I explore the different elements of creativity. My plan is, a lot of mosquitoes, that I will present you an episode every third week. So every third Friday is the plan. So that means in total of 30 weeks I will have episodes. So 10 episodes, and then I will present it every third week. And you can see these episodes as what do you call it? A course or lessons that are connected. So every episode is a part of a lesson, but they should be watched together, since they are together. All these 10 episodes together create this course in creativity. And the purpose of this course, or the goal of this course, is for you to own your own creativity and be your own designer. And when I say be your own designer, I don't mean like that you should quit job and become a knitwear designer, and that you should only make your own things. I don't mean that. But I mean that you should be feeling more confident in actually creating and modifying garments that fits your needs, and solving those problems that you come up with, so you can actually create things the way you want it. And you can merge different patterns into what you want to have. So on creativity, and the plan is 10 episodes, and exploring creativity from the 3 elements: skills, inspiration, and courage. The general content of every episode will be the theme for the episode that comes from one of these 3 elements. So that will be like the main theme. I'm also planning on, maybe not in every episode, but in most of them, I will present one of my designs, or one of my designs, or the way I have created something. And here I want to be very clear. Please listen to this. I will not show them as a way for you to be able to recreate them in a way, like it's not a pattern. I will explain or talk about the inspiration behind. Why did I choose to make it this way? I will talk about and explain the design, the construction, and if you are an experienced knitter, you will probably be able to recreate that garment just from those instructions or what I'm talking about. But it's not a pattern. You have to wear them. So the purpose of these, me showing you my designs, is not for you to be able to recreate them. It's pure inspiration to talk about how I have maybe modified a pattern that is already out there. Oh, these mosquitoes. Or how I actually created something from a kind of basic pattern and made my own way. And you are more than welcome to be inspired by my designs. But as I say, they will not become patterns unless I say so. So my request for you, do not ask, will it become a pattern? And do not beg, please make this a pattern, because I will not do that. And I will actually be a little bit offended if you keep asking about it, because then you don't understand how much work is put into doing something to a pattern or a recipe. Because if I'm going to do that, there will be no podcast at all, because I don't have the time for that. So a theme, showing my own design, and also a third part will be my best tip. That I just talk about something the way I do something, or that I just want to inspire or learn, or just talk about my way of doing things that maybe could make your knitting life better. And that could be more or less from yarn storage to something else. The things that I will talk about and the things that I will show will not be the things that you can easily find in the rest of the YouTube or Google or Instagram or somewhere else. I will focus on the things that I would have wanted to watch, and maybe like other ways of doing things. So if you are looking for a podcast that tells you exactly how to do things, this is not the podcast. This is not a podcast for teaching you how to knit, because I will not tell you how to do things. I will not tell you what to look for. I will not tell you what yarn I've used, even if I will probably mention, but I will not talk about it. As I said, I will not talk about finished objects, work in progress. I will probably show my things. If I'm wearing something, I will probably tell you what I'm wearing, but I will not focus on that. I will focus on the other things. So once again, if you're looking for these kind of ordinary, more like diary-like podcasts, this will not be that kind of podcasting. And it's not either a podcast that you just like, okay, you have in the background and just listening to. I hope that you are willing to engage in this and try to learn, to take the lessons I have created and give it a try, to try to be more creative and be your own designer, to use it to help you. So that is what I'm hoping for, because if no one actually using that information I give, then I don't really need to give, because then I do things just in vain. So what I want, it is for you to develop, that you are actually developing and increasing your own creativity, that you dare to design and challenge yourself in modifying garments to become like the things that fits you. Not only the fit for the body, but also like colors and patterns and expression that fits you. Like the final exam for this course will be in episode number 10. And that will actually be knitting this slipover that I am wearing. That is called Huldra. So this is a slipover with an interesting construction. This is my first prototype. I have knitted another one, and I am knitting on a third one. and it will be on the fourth slip huldra that I will actually do the pattern or the recipe. So it's, as I say, it's a lot of work to making a pattern of a design. So see if I can raise. It's this one I have made with small leaves, like a slip over. This one is with a hood, a well-fitting hood. So the plan for this design is to have a hood. You will be able to choose like the texture yourself, and the plan is also, or the final design will also be with a front pocket, and in a very like a clever way of constructing it. And that's like this design is, for me, I find it's designed to be knitted. The construction is in a clever way, so that it's a joy to knit and it's a joy to wear as well. I will talk more about this later. As I said, this is only the first prototype, but that will be episode number 10 for a little bit like the goal for you to knit that. And the recipe for this huldra slipover will not be like exactly do this, cast on this many stitches, knit for these many rounds. That is not. It will be like a guide for you. But hopefully you have collected those skills, the inspiration and the courage for you to knit this and feel confident and make it your own version. So that is like the exam of the course, if you want to knit this one, of course. So I hope that you will give yourself the chance, that you will engage in this course and take the opportunity, and not only see this as something that is in the background and just like listening a little bit. I want you to engage in this. When I was young, there was a TV program from American high school where it was called Fame. And I remember that in the intro part, the teacher said that you want fame, but fame costs. And right here is where you start to pay in sweat. And that's a little bit all about it, that you cannot just expect to get things for granted. You have to work for it. And that's the same. If you want to become a good knitter, you cannot just take a course and then think that, okay, then it's all done. You need to work for it. What you should know is that I will record this episode not as one episode and then I publish it. I will record it kind of fragmented because I need to make this in a sustainable way. And it means that I will record when I have the time. So when you see this, I have already probably recorded parts of the coming episodes. And that means that you probably see me in, I don't know, I may be cutting my hair or something. You see that I look different, probably. In one episode you may see a finished object, and in the next episode I've just started it. So it could be like strange in that way. And also the environment, if I'm outdoors, it may like look different. It could be like spring, summer and autumn in the same episode. I don't know. So I will record it when I have the time. And that's to make this sustainable for me. So I can record when I have the time, I can edit when I have the time, I can upload it when I have the time. And my plan is that I will upload things and then put it on a planned. It means that YouTube releases it when I've said that they will publish it so everyone can see it. And that also means that if I'm on vacation or I don't have the time to announce on Instagram that I am putting out a new episode, I strongly recommend you to subscribe to my video channel so you will have a notification that there is a new episode on its way. For even if I have my ambition is to have it out on Fridays every third week, I cannot guarantee, because that has to do with have I been able to record in that pace that I want to do. It could be things that turns out that okay, I wasn't able to record it, or I got some technical problems, and so on. So I advise you to subscribe, just to don't miss an episode. And I am doing these episodes mainly for myself, because I am the primary audience, but I make these episodes so I get something out of it. And I hope that you will also have something out of it. But I need to think about what I need to be able to actually make these episodes and to keep my bucket of inspiration full. And that's one of the reasons why I choose to make this in English, because that's another challenge for me. And also something that I get something out of it, that I'm actually training my English a little bit more than I do in my daily work. I'm also planning on doing the recording, for example, outdoors. That is more challenging. It's the light, it's the background sound, it's the weather and wind. You cannot really, you cannot decide what weather it should be. I have to walk out a couple of kilometers to get to some kind of forest where it's maybe it's not quiet, but you don't hear all the traffic sound and so on. So I want to do some of the episodes. I'm planning on doing some of the episodes outdoors. And then you have to accept that maybe the lighting is what it is. You will have all this, the background sound of all the birds, and that's nothing I can do anything about. I will record many of the episodes indoors at my kitchen table as well. I don't have any studio, so I will use the lights I have in the kitchen and comes through the windows and the lamps. There will be maybe noise from ventilation and other things. I cannot. It's like it is, and the lighting is like it is. I am using the technical equipment I have, the camera or my telephone to record with. I'm having an iPad where I record or edit things in. I'm not interested in buying new technical equipment just to make this podcast. So I'm using what I have. And that means that you don't have to comment on like the sound is bad or the picture is bad or the lighting is bad, because I will not be able to do anything about it, because I'm doing the best I can every time. And I will not record again if I find that okay, now it was something that too much background light or something. I watch myself here in the on the screen, so I can get some kind of idea what the picture will look like. But yeah, you will just have to live with what I can record, and the picture and the the voice and the sound, and just trust me that I'm doing the best I can. So, there are mosquitoes out here. So that is what the concept of this, the new Miss Evil Knits on creativity, is all about. A different concept than the other ones that I have recorded, and encouraging you to actually becoming more creative, to develop yourself. And you are doing that for you. You don't have to, I'm not your teacher that you have to report to. So you are processing the things you learn in the way that you want to process it. But that's up to you. So, and now to a really important part. A really important request I have for you, as I mentioned in the beginning. And it has to do with my bucket of inspiration not going empty and drying out. Because the thing that I think is draining my inspiration the most is questions. As I talked about in the beginning, most of what I've learned, the different interests I have, including knitting, I am self-taught. And I've learned by being curious, by trying out things, not be afraid of failing, because I mean that if you try something and you don't succeed, but you learn from it, then you can never fail. And my knowledge and experience that I have collected, it hasn't come for free. I have worked for it. And I find that some people don't really respect that. And they think that just because I know things, just because I have experienced the things, I have to share and I have to answer questions. And I mean that, no, that's not the way things are. I sometimes feel, and I have experienced this in not only knitting, but in more or less everything that I have been doing. Because, yeah, I know a lot of things. But as I said, I know it because I am actually actively trying to learn. But many people think that, oh, it's so easy, I just ask Anneli about these things, because she knows everything. And sometimes I have engaged myself in that person's question and trying to help the person. And then when I have been given answers to all of that questions that the person have, the response is like, oh yeah, that was interesting, thank you, I was just asking, I was just wondering. And then I think, okay, I'm now engaged maybe at least an hour of my life in answering questions to someone who is not actually going to use the information. They were just wondering. And I think that this is something that we need to consider in all different kind of situations, that the information is so easily accessed on internet now. You just Google things. But that doesn't mean that you can treat everybody like Google. Because you need to respect a person's knowledge and experience, and not just take it for granted that that person will share it with you or have to share it with you. And I see that if you have a person that you want to ask a question, then you first have to ask yourself, does that person have to answer my question? And yeah, if that person works in a help desk or something, yeah, then they have to answer your question because that's their work. Or if you have paid that person in any way that they should answer questions for you, yeah, then they have to answer your questions. But if it's not, then you will have to ask yourself, does that person want to answer your questions? And some people want to answer questions because they feel like it's encouraging. You're being noticed if people ask you questions, because that means that someone thinks that you know things. So some people like questions, and some people don't like questions. Have a feeling that the need to answer things. And then you need to ask yourself, okay, the questions I'm planning on asking this person, can I find out that information in another way? Can I Google it? Can I, if I just wait, maybe I will get that information? If I is there someone else I can ask? Or can I just figure it out myself without asking anyone because, well, it's like kind of logical thinking. So I think in general you need to be a little bit careful with just asking questions, especially to people you don't really know, and just expect them to answer because they have the answer. But because you have the answer doesn't make it your responsibility to give the answers. And in our relation, I want it to be like this, a symbiosis, a win-win symbiosis. That we are actually, I am providing you with inspiration, and that I give something back from you. That you are actually inspiring me by telling me about your inspiration, but not in a way that I have to answer and give more information to you, but actually think that you are giving back, that you are telling me about how you find inspiration from a birch when the leaves were just turning green, or that you have found something else, and how you were thinking about modifying something, that you actually tell me and tell everyone else about your inspiration and your creativity, or your courage that you did something. That is something that fills my bucket of inspiration. So that is like a symbiosis with a win-win outcome. But then there can also be in symbiosis where the one species is living on another species. The first species win with it, but the other species don't really care because it doesn't lose. And that is also okay. That I know that there are many of you that will not interact with me and will not tell about. You will just consume this and keep it for yourself and doing things about it. And that is also okay. But what I don't want is to have a win-lose situation where I provide you with my knowledge and you request more from me. Because that is, and when I say request more information, that is what I call questions. You want to have personal advice or recommendation or anything that actually you want me to provide more information. And that is what is draining me, because it takes time. And yeah, it could be some questions might be really interesting to me, but to draw a very clear line, I am saying that I will not answer any questions. So I will not answer any questions that are asked to me. And the purpose of that is actually to make this sustainable. Because being asked a lot of questions, that is the opposite to motivation. That's the opposite to inspiration for me. Because that is draining my bucket of inspiration. So the information I share in the episode, that's the information I will share. Nothing more. So I ask you that have been watching this far on this episode that please don't ask questions. And if you feel like you really have an important question, then you can write it. But write it very clear that, okay, I know that you will not answer a question, but I hope that someone else can help me. Because then I know that you have understood my message. And I encourage you, everyone watching here, to help each other and interact with each other. And if there are, and I think there will be, people who will not watch this episode, even if I in every episode will encourage you to watch this episode where I explain everything about it, I think that there will be people that even if I say everywhere and write everywhere I don't answer questions, that still will ask questions. And still will ask, will that become a pattern? Or what's that pattern? And who has done that? And where did you buy that yarn? And I kindly request from you that inform that person that I will not answer questions. And inform that person that please watch the presentation episode and you will understand why. Because I will just ignore those questions. And the thing is, because when it comes to sustainability for me and my time and my energy, if there are too many of those that just don't get it, I will actually consider not publishing any more episodes. Because then I know that there are too many who just don't listen to what I say. That don't get that this is something else than ordinary, like more like this diary episodes of podcast. And then I will feel like, okay, I don't think that I want to do this because it's not worth. Because if no one listens to what I say, why should I talk? It will be like that. Because if I feel like those questions and the ignorance is draining me and I'm getting disappointed, then I will seriously consider. But I want you to share. Your experiences, your inspiration, your courage and your creativity with me and with everyone else. So where you give what you have experienced, I will love to hear about it because that will fuel me up and make me able to actually continue sharing. So sharing and caring at the same time, that is what I want us to do. I want us to have this kind of win-win situation where no one feels that they are being drained. So, I think that I have reached the end of my notes. I probably forgot something, but we will see. So, from now and about 30 weeks ahead, until the end of December, I think that will be, I will try to publish 10 episodes, and there will be an episode every third week. And it will start on the Midsummer Eve, on the 25th of June. That's my plan, at least. But I recommend you to subscribe and get this little bit notification bell that you get a notice, an alarm when I publish the episodes. Because I cannot guarantee that there will be this every third week. We will see. And the exact content I cannot talk about right now because I haven't really decided. I have made some kind of plans or sketches for it, but since I haven't recorded it yet, I cannot say that it will be like that. But I have a theme. I have this showing my design and having my best tip. I will try to have that in every episodes. So that is what I will say for now. And I really hope that you will join me on this journey. And I hope that we can fill each other with creativity, and that in December this year that we have grown as knitters and maybe as persons as well, and that we have become more creative, more aware, and better knitters. So until next time, bye bye.